What if Earth had rings like Saturn? Not a tiny halo you can barely notice. I mean massive, bright rings wrapping around our planet, visible in daylight and glowing at night like a cosmic highway across the sky. It would be the most beautiful thing humans have ever seen, but it would also change our world in ways most people never think about. Our nights, our weather, our animals, even our satellites and internet. First, the sky. Earth's rings would appear as a huge bright band stretching across the horizon. Sometimes it would look like a glowing arc, other times like a straight line cutting the sky in half. And here's the wild part. People wouldn't see it the same way everywhere. If you lived near the equator, the rings could dominate the sky, high overhead, bright, and impossible to ignore. But if you lived farther north or south, the rings would sit lower, closer to the horizon, thinner, more angled, and in some places they might almost disappear. So the ring sky would become part of culture. Different regions would literally grow up under different heavens. Now imagine nighttime. Even without a full moon, nights could be brighter because the rings would reflect sunlight. On some evenings, you'd see a pale glow across the sky, like a permanent aurora, but sharper and more defined. That sounds magical, until you realize brighter nights affect life. Animals that depend on darkness, owls, bats, nocturnal predators, could change their hunting patterns. Sea turtles that navigate by natural light could get confused. Even humans might sleep differently in places where the sky never truly gets dark, and astronomers would be heartbroken, because rings don't just reflect light, they scatter it. The night sky would get noisier and washed out in certain directions. But the biggest surprise isn't the light, it's the shadow. Those rings would block sunlight at certain angles, casting huge moving shadows across Earth. Not like a normal cloud shadow, more like a slow, sweeping eclipse that returns again and again as the planet rotates and the seasons shift. Over time, some regions could receive slightly less sunlight during certain parts of the year. That could mean cooler temperatures in specific belts, changes in wind patterns, and subtle shifts in rainfall. Not an instant ice age, but enough to rewrite climate maps over decades. Farming zones could move. Storm tracks could behave differently. A beautiful sky, quietly changing the planet below it. Here's another thing people get wrong. Rings are not solid. Saturn's rings are made of countless particles, ice, dust, and rocky fragments. Some as tiny as grains of sand, others as big as houses. If Earth had rings, we'd likely have something similar, a massive debris field trapped in orbit. That means more meteors, not necessarily giant extinction-level impacts, but more streaks of light in the atmosphere, more shooting stars, and more fine material burning up overhead. Some nights could look like a constant cosmic drizzle, beautiful, but also a reminder that Earth now has a permanent belt of debris above it. Now we reach the part that's genuinely terrifying. Modern civilization depends on space, GPS, weather satellites, communication, banking, maps, emergency signals. A huge portion of the invisible system that runs our lives is orbiting above us. If Earth had rings, many safe orbits would become dangerous, because to a satellite, a ring is basically a minefield. Even tiny particles can destroy equipment at orbital speeds. So we'd have to redesign everything. New orbital highways, new satellite layers, maybe fewer satellites, or more protected ones. Launching rockets would be harder too. We couldn't just shoot straight up into common orbital paths. Some trajectories might literally pass through the ring plane. So yes, rings would make Earth look like a fantasy world, but they might also make our technology more fragile. Another unexpected effect is how bright the sky could feel even during twilight. Depending on the ring composition, some nights might have a glow almost like permanent thin moonlight. That could change city lighting needs, night travel, and even the way people experience darkness. And culturally, human history would rewrite itself. Religions, myths, art, navigation, and calendars would be built around the rings. The sky would feel alive. So what if Earth had Saturn's rings? We'd gain the most breathtaking sky in the solar system, but we'd pay for it with brighter nights, shifting shadows, new weather patterns, more meteors, and a serious threat to the satellites that hold our world together. It would be stunning. It would be complicated. And once you saw that glowing band over the horizon, you'd never look at Earth the same way again. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and hit like.